we think that there are 5 levels of wealth. There's stability, strategy, security, freedom, and abundance. We're going to walk through each one of those like a pyramid. You work through one level to get to the next level. We're going to kind of talk about how to know at each stage if you're there and how to assess, am I doing this right? Am I doing it wrong?
But it's more of a Maslow's hierarchy pyramid, not a pyramid scheme type pyramid.
That's right. You got it. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Let's talk about stability first, Bo.
Yeah, so stability, this is pretty baseline. Stability just means that you can pay your bills. And you may be saying, oh, well, that sounds pretty easy. Pay your bills. That's okay. So everybody's there. Everybody's there. Not so fast. I think it's important, Brian, if we walk through what stability actually is and then what stability is not. Because the first thing is stability is not living paycheck to paycheck. If you're someone who's just trying to make the ends meet every pay cycle, you have probably not made it to the stability stage just yet.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where you need to familiar yourself with deferred gratification. I want you to lean into the discipline of the situation, really focusing on how you spend your money, because that seems to be the biggest thing that people fall into. And then you don't want to make sure that bad debts are going away, they're non-existent, because a lot of Americans just can't seem to make it over that hurdle.
That's exactly right. And then let's talk about what stability is not. It's interesting. It's not income-based. We know plenty of folks who have 6-figure incomes and yet still have not made it to the stability level of wealth. That is a sad, sad story. It's also not a given just because you're a certain age. Oh, I've been working for 20 years. Oh, I've been working for 30 years. Surely I'm at this level of wealth. That may not be the case. It is more than strictly income-based or strictly age-based.
It's also, stability is not paying for your life $100 at a time. I know you can buy now, pay later for about everything in the world, and that's why it's shocking to me that 50% of Americans between age 25 to 44 have actually used this service. Yep. That is not where stability is sitting.
And what's so frustrating is the number of Americans can't even master this very, what I'm going to say, simple, basic level of wealth. We know this to be true, that 57% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings right now. So if some emergency came along, it is going to completely derail them. And we know that 56% of Americans actually carry a credit card balance month over month. That means that 56% of Americans are living beyond their means. 56% of folks are not at this level of wealth
Now,
yet.
look, I want to make sure we put a little bit of tone to this to understand. We get the context that life's not the easiest time right now. We just came through a very high inflation period. Interest rates are higher. It's just one of those things where both owning a house or even renting a place to live is not the easiest thing to do right now. And that's why 54% of you are feeling overwhelmed by your finances. 40% of you list inflation as a top concern for 2024. We understand that there's struggles and problems out there, but we're going to help you get through it.
That's right. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's not easy, but it is attainable. Okay, so how do I do this? How do I get to level 1 if I'm not there yet? Well, first thing you have to do, you have to take a look at your spending. What are the dollars that are flowing out of my wallet each pay period, each week, each month, and how can I rein those in? How can I get that under control? Do I actually even know where my money is going? Am I following a budget? Do I have it written down how I should be thinking about my spending behavior, my consumption behavior?
I also want you to think about the big expenses. This is where I'm talking about what are your housing, what are your car consumption. You know, don't try to look cool while you're not even saving and investing. You're not living on less than you make. Don't let these consumption expenses like housing, the car you drive, and even where you eat your food. Yes, I know you have to eat. I'm all about you having shelter. I'm all about you having transportation. I'm all about you eating, but you need to make sure that you're disciplined with every one of those big choices.
And so when it comes to our personal finance, there are really 2 levers we get to pull. The first is, how much do I spend? The second is, how much do I make? So take a look at your income. Once you've cut your expenses down, are there other things that I can do to influence my income to make it go up? Maybe this is doing different things at my current job to make more money. Maybe this is creating a side hustle, a side income. If there are ways that you can impact the amount of money that you have coming in, it's going to set you up to be able to defer some of that money into the future and begin to build a stable foundation.
Yeah, and this is something, be prepared to make sacrifices and adjustments. Look, Everybody, when you have success, just assumes it was easy, but there's actually a lot of scarcity and sacrifice. So I want you to go make sure you're looking at what are your subscription expenses? What are the things, because you're trying to make the good habits as easy as possible, the bad habits super hard. One of the things is making sure you're automating the good stuff, but you're also cutting out the things that are unnecessary. So if you're, paying for services or doing subscriptions and you're not even funding your Roth IRA or having emergency reserves, you're probably doing this part wrong.
All right, so let's think about this. How do I know if I'm doing it right? What are some benchmarks that will tell me, okay, I'm in the stability phase and maybe I'm thinking about moving to the second phase? Here's the first one. Do you have your deductibles covered? Where do we get that from? Well, it actually comes from the financial order of operations. Step number one. This is, a lot of people say, $1,000, we think your highest deductible should be covered. Have I done that? Am I getting 100% of my employer match? Am I doing step two of the financial order of operations? Do I have a budget in place? Am I practicing some sort of forced scarcity plan where I know what I have coming in, I know what I have going out, and I'm living on less than I make. I'm living below my means. If I'm doing those things, then odds are I'm doing the stability phase right.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway for me to get from step one to step two is understanding, hey, can I just beat the 60% of Americans that can't come up with $1,000? If you can lean into the discipline, live on less than you make, and start building your emergency reserves, I think you're going to be in a better place.
Yeah, so your emergency fund is starting to build. And then are you starting to see stuff like high interest debt? Those things that can be absolutely detrimental to your long-term wealth building, are they starting to decline? If those things are happening, then you may be ready to move to the next level of wealth.